Hey there, and welcome to the Crossing From You to You podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Dorita, also known on social media as Miss.Mindful. And today is the first episode of this podcast, and I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so happy that I just listened to the messages that people were sharing with me of like, you need to start a podcast. Hey, this is coming through for me that you need to start a podcast. So I'm just grateful that I'm here. I'm able to share this wisdom, the stuff that gets channeled through, and just all these messages that want to be channeled through to you and to me as well. So today I'm about to share with you my personal story of how I gradually started awakening to my false sense of self and awakening to myself and how that shift happened, that whole story, which eventually led to me resigning from my tenured position, leaving my family behind, my house behind, my state behind, my country behind, literally everything behind, and moving to a completely different country that I have no information about and no idea why I moved there. So I'm super excited to share my journey and to have you follow along and join me through this process of awakening and just this really beautiful story that has been unraveling for the last, let's say, 3 years. But really, it's been happening my whole life. And it's just really come to, I don't know if I want to say an explosion, but it's really just come into fruition. And so I'm just really excited to be here and to share this with you. So we're just going to go way back. We're going to go all the way back to when I first gained any sort of awareness. So I was going through a challenging time now. This was back in 2014. It had to do with a guy, and my mother one day was like, just gave me this book. It's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. If you haven't read it, get on it, read it. It's really amazing. Changed my whole life. Changed actually the trajectory of my whole life, which I don't know if I believe in because I feel that we're always destined to get to wherever we need to. But this book changed my life. And I started reading it, and it was the first time in my life that I was aware that my thoughts were not me. It was the first time that I realized that what I thought wasn't me. And that was just, it was a huge awakening in that moment because the mind is just going constantly. It's constantly receiving information. It's constantly talking. It's constantly narrating. And to know in that moment when I was 18 that my thoughts aren't actually me and I don't have to listen to them and I don't have to be them was so big. And it really opened my eyes. And, that just set my journey of reading self-help books off, right? I was reading all the books. I couldn't get enough of them. Like, it's the same exact message, but just different wording. And I was reading so many of them. Let's say I was reading self-help books for, 5, 6 years. It was all I was reading. I wasn't reading anything for pleasure. It was just all about spirituality, all about the mind, all about awareness, meditation, things like this. And so I just started reading and I started gaining this awareness. And really, things really didn't shift for me because you can have so much knowledge. You can have all the knowledge that you want, but until you have the experience and you're conceptualizing it, not with your mind, but with your heart, and you're experiencing it and feeling it, that's really where the change starts to happen. So this all really started for me once meditation was introduced into my life. So let's fast forward. So that was in 2014, read books for just years, couldn't get enough of them, felt a little crazy because I was now aware of my thoughts, but I really didn't know what to do with them. So I went to Nichols College in Dudley, Massachusetts, and there was this professor who was so jolly, happy, just enlightened, just you looked at this person and you were like, what do you have? I need it now. And I heard other students talking about how amazing this professor was, and just, I had to take this guy's course. And so I'm going to leave his name out of here for now. But this guy changed my life. I was a senior And I was finally able to take one of his courses. And I took one of his classes. He taught about religion and I'm kind of forgetting what he taught, but it had to do with different religions. I took a class with a bunch of different religions. We tied them all in. We went to like a temple. We went to just different, different places for field trips and just learned about all different religions. And so, you know what we did on the first day of class? We meditated. And it was the first time I had ever meditated, and I was in a class full of other students. And it was only a couple minutes long, and I like couldn't even help myself. I raised my hand at the end of class, and I was like, "Professor, have you ever read the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle?" And he was like, "Please see me after class." And so I met with him after class, and we just connected, and I shared with him like about my story of reading all these books, and I just was so grateful to learn about meditation. It really hadn't even been in my awareness, meditation at all, for that, let's see, how many years would that have been? 3 years of being introduced to the book, and then before being introduced to meditation. And so the next day I came into class, or it wasn't the next day, but it was like a couple days later, and he had this book for me. It was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And it had this beautiful note on the inside of the cover. And he was just like, "I'm just so grateful to be a part of your journey." And so I read the book, of course, because like whatever this guy's doing, I need it. Like whatever this man is doing, he embodies it, and I can feel his energy. I love him already. Everybody loves him. He's just a freaking amazing person. You just want to be around it. You can't get enough of it. And you're just, like I said, how do you have what you have, and can you teach me, and can I have it too? So let's fast forward from there. I started doing meditation, but it wasn't very consistent practice, and I really wasn't utilizing it that much. So let's fast forward. I went to school to be a high school math teacher, but I didn't really believe in myself and my abilities in math, and so I ended up going into middle school math because I was afraid of failing my high school math MTEL, which is your teacher's your license, and you have to take one in high school math and all, whatever your subject matter is. And so I was afraid to take the high school math one. So I decided, let's just do middle school. We'll get in, we'll teach middle school, and we'll work our way up to high school. So anyways, limiting belief right there. That played itself out. Okay, back to the story. So I had a 5th grade class from hell. It was my first year teaching. I was actually teaching STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I got into this school that was close to Nichols College where I was doing my practicum, and it just everything fell into place, and I ended up at the school teaching STEM for the first 2-3 months of my teaching career. And I had this 5th grade class that was so horrible. I had a 10-year-old who had bipolar disorder, would just be standing on the desk, jumping on them, yelling, screaming, hitting people. The kids would come into the room and like penguin on their bellies onto the floor and then sit in their chair. And I would go home and I would just cry. I'm like, I don't know how to manage this class. So I reached out to my good old guru, professor, and I just said, "Hey, I'm really struggling with teaching." And you know what he said to me? He said, "Well, why don't you try meditation? Why don't you try meditating with the class?" I was like, "Dude, are you for real? You really think that I'm going to be able to get these kids to stop talking, to sit with their eyes closed? Like, I can't even get them to come in, walk in, and just sit down and just pay attention." How, I was just so baffled. I was like, this guy's freaking crazy. He really thinks it's going to work. And so I fought it for a while, and just like I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it, because I have nothing else to lose but my sanity, more of my sanity. So I started meditating with these kids, and long story short, I meditated for the rest of my teaching career with my students, every single class, first 5 minutes. And it changed everything. They came in, they were quiet, they were behaved, they were developing these really deep connections with me and appreciating me and loving me in a way that I never experienced before. Not that I had a ton of teaching experience, but the development of deep, meaningful relationships between student and teacher was wow. The behavior, wow. It's like everything, it was just like a magic wand. I waved the magic wand, and just it was amazing. I can't even really speak to how much this changed my teaching career, but it was also changing my life. So let's fast forward a little bit more. And so I was using this for years. I ended up going and passing my high school math MTEL, Massachusetts Teachers Education License. I think that's what that stands for. And like a high school position opened up in the same district, just different high school. Sorry, same district, just at the high school. So I went and taught high school math for the rest of the year at that school because that was my goal, to get into high school math. And so, they were like, you really, it works with younger kids, but, it might not work with the older kids. Regardless, it worked. It works with every age, young kids, older people, like in the middle, everybody meditation works for. And so where do we go from here? I remember one day, it had been a year or two, maybe even 3. I was back teaching at maybe it was like a year or 2. I was back teaching at my old high school that I went to high school in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, which was my goal always to get back to that high school. It's such a beautiful high school and just beautiful place to be in. And I just remember one day my mom, we were talking and she looked at me and she said, you know what, you're doing this practice of meditation and mindfulness in the classroom with these kids and you're teaching them such a valuable tool. But like, I don't really see that you're using it outside of school. Like, do you have your own practice with this? And something just sat really deeply with me of, wow, you're right. I'm using this, I'm teaching this with kids, but I'm really not embodying it. Like I'm doing it 3 to 5 times a day in class, but I really didn't start my own practice until my mom brought that to my attention. And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. You're right. How can I be like preaching all this stuff and talking about how wonderful it is and not really having my own consistent meditation practice? So I started meditating every single morning and every single night on top of like the 3 to 5 times I would do it at school with the different classes that I had every day, every period. And it was just really beautiful. I started to become aware of my thoughts and I started to feel a bit crazy. Like, I just wish I didn't know about this shit, because then I wouldn't have to watch and observe and witness my own neurosis of my mind go on. Like, people think that when you start meditating that you're able to just stop your thoughts. They think that you can just switch them to positive thoughts. And honestly, that's not the case. There's so many misconceptions about meditation out there. And I think that's really what drives people away from it, because people feel like they're not doing it right. You're like, oh, well, I'm always thinking while meditating, so looks like I'm not doing it right. Fuck meditation. So yeah, I really started to become aware of my thoughts, and I felt crazy because I couldn't stop them and I just had to deal with them. But little did I know that having awareness is the first step in the awakening process. Having awareness of anything is the first step to changing a behavior, to changing a thought pattern, to changing your responses and reactions to people, to changing limiting self-thought or belief, to changing a program, to changing anything. This is the foundation. This is the most basic thing that you need in order to make any changes in your life, and it's awareness. And it's hard to look at your stuff. It's hard to be aware of your behaviors, your thoughts, your patterns, your beliefs, your everything, right? That's not easy to be aware of. So there was a period of time where I just felt crazy. And you know what? To this day, sometimes to this day, it's like ignorance is bliss. If I just didn't have to know about any of this stuff, then I could just go on living my life and everything would be fine and I wouldn't know about any of this. And so anyways, moving on, what else happened in my journey that really started all this for me, or continued all of this? I always kept in contact with my guru, and so what really started to happen with all of this awareness is that I became aware of this false sense of self. I became aware of this whole energy that was operating in my body. Basically, we can think of like a tick and its host, a tick and an animal, right? This false sense of self is the tick, and it totally took over my body. It took over all of the control centers. It just was literally using my vessel and had its own agenda. And I just had no idea about it, right? And so this is my belief. I believe that we come into this world and we are so close to source when we first enter into this world and we're little babies. And we are completely pure. We're completely whole. And we know our mission here on earth. Like we're so close to source. We just came from it. We just came from consciousness. We're put into this body that we chose. And from the moment we come out of the womb, the programming starts, the beliefs start, the thoughts start, the whole false sense of self starts to build. And it's built from parenting, it's built from society, from friends, from culture. Like this thing just starts to be fed from the moment we come out of the womb. And as this false sense of self grows, the truth, the you, the capital Y in you, your soul, God, whatever you want to call it, starts to get suppressed. Starts to just make its way down into the nooks and crannies of this vessel and just gets pushed out by the false sense of self. And so our whole lives, we're just building this false sense of self. My name is Samantha. I'm a high school math teacher. I have a brother and a sister. Like it just starts building all of this stuff. And I come from this town and in this state, and this is my life, and this is who I am. And the story, it just has so much depth to it, right? And it just starts to operate. It tells you who you are, it tells you what you're supposed to be doing, and it just has its whole own agenda. And so my awareness started to become aware of all of this, but I really didn't know what to do with it because I never really felt like I had contact with anything else. So I didn't know that the capital Y, the capital U, was in there. When I say capital U, I mean like capital Y, lowercase o, lowercase u. When I'm referencing the capital Y, the U, that's referencing the soul. But like the lowercase u, the Y, the lowercase y, is referencing the false sense of self. And that's where this name of the podcast comes from. The crossing from you, all lowercase, to you, your true self. And so let's keep fast forwarding. Where are we at next? Okay, yeah, so COVID hits, right? That just messed up so many people. It was really challenging. I mean, if anyone was a teacher out there, I mean, God bless you. And if anyone was a student out there during that time, God bless you. If anyone was alive during that time, God bless you. It was a really challenging time. And I had been in this, I started this relationship, it was a very toxic relationship. And it was only a couple months long, but it just brought me to my knees. And I ended up, COVID hit first. I was teaching remotely, which was just horrible. I lost all my passion. It was just a really hard time, but I was also going through my own stuff. Like I said, I was in a toxic relationship for a couple of months. And I just remember driving my car one day and I had this thought pass by my mind that I never had ever had before. And the thought was about driving my car off the road. And it was so alarming to me that had crossed my mind, because I had never been in a space where I was depressed or anxious or not feeling good. I had always been in a good space and didn't struggle with mental health issues. So it was just it really woke me up in that moment. Holy crap. I just had a thought about killing myself and driving my car off the side of the road. So a lot of things were compiling in these moments. I ended up, I remember I was going to a dentist appointment with my mother, and on the way home, I looked at the clock and it was 6:00. And I just started crying in the car. Mom was like, "What is wrong?" And I was like, "It's 6:00. And she's like, "Well, what do you mean it's 6:00? I'm like, "But I just we have to go home." And I was so distraught about everything. And when we got home, I just didn't even know why I was crying. I was crying every day. And when I got home, I looked at my mom and I was like, "I think I need help, Ma. I think that I need to talk to someone. I need to talk to someone. I'm like, I had this thought the other day. I've just been in a really low state. And like, I feel like maybe I'm starting to become depressed. And this is happening really fast. I knew that if I didn't get a hold of this thing was just snowballing. Like, I couldn't believe how fast it was growing. And so I started going to therapy, which is really important to note in my journey. I started going to therapy. I ended up ending this relationship with this person, and which showed me that like this major role that I was playing in my life of needing to help people and save people. And then the vaccine mandate hits. And now what I'm going to say next, I have no judgments about anybody doing anything with their body, whether they're getting the vaccine or not. I'm just sharing my own personal experience and my own beliefs here. I was not getting that vaccine. There was something inside of my body that was saying, you cannot get this. And that is my spiritual compass, right? Whatever my body is telling me, that's what I'm going to do. And so there was a period of 4-5 months where I thought I was going to lose my job teaching. I'm teaching at Shrewsbury High School. I've made it to the school that I always wanted to teach at. I'm here. I have a couple years in. Everything's great. And yeah, they hit me with the vaccine mandate and I fought it. And it took about 3 years off my life. I really don't pull my head out of the sand to deal with anything that's going on. But when someone's going to do something to me or making me do something that I don't want to do and threatening like my salary and my job and my career over it, I'm going to fight. And I was fighting for my body and I was fighting for my spirit that was saying, hey, we're not doing this. And it was like, it was okay. Like I just had to listen to my body. I had to listen to my self, capital S. So that brought me through a really hard time. And I thought that the rug was going to get pulled out from underneath me at any moment. I thought one day I was going to walk into work. They were going to be like, yep, you're done. You didn't get the vaccine. Like everybody I knew that wasn't getting it was getting fired from their positions. And I knew that if I got fired from this job, like I couldn't go back to teaching because what if they were going to mandate me at the next school? And what if something happens in the future where they are going to mandate me again? Like, why don't I just deal with this now? So it was the first time in my life that I had to awaken to the fact that I wasn't going to be a teacher forever and that it didn't have to be that way. Just because I went to college, just because I got my master's in education and math does not mean and does not bind me to being a teacher forever. But I thought that. So COVID really was another part of my awakening process of waking me up to the fact that, hey, you're not going to be a teacher forever. So during this process of not knowing if I was going to have a job and just waiting for the rug to be pulled out from underneath me, fighting it, writing little letters, my professor from college was the one who wrote my clergy note that was supposed to talk about how I was religious and why it goes against my religious beliefs and all this stuff. But I wasn't writing one like that. I wrote a letter that was like, this is my temple, this is my body, and my spirituality tells me to follow my body, and this is why I can't. Because my internal compass is saying no, and I have to listen to that. And that was what my letter was about. So anyways, I started applying to just looking up online for any retreats possible because I was like, if I'm going to get fired from my job, let's just go travel. Let's go to a retreat. Let's go somewhere for like a week or a month or whatever and just really unwind from everything that's been happening. So I ended up finding this retreat. It was called Fit for Service. I don't know if any of you know that are listening of Aubrey Marcus, but he has a community of people called Fit for Service, and he runs events and little retreats, weekend retreats. I only went to a weekend one, so I can't really speak much more. So I ended up going to this retreat. It was in Texas, and this retreat changed my life. This is the biggest turning point in my life. So I'm at this retreat and I'm in a container of people who are all just like I am. And it was actually the only one I could go to because all the other ones required vaccinations and this one didn't. So I'm in a room, a container full of like-minded people. They're all healers, very spiritual. They're all traveling the world. They all have their own businesses. And here I am, like waking up at 3 a.m. to call out sick and, to my school saying like, I'm sick, can't come. And then doing the same thing the next day. And all these other people, I'm just like, how are they all here and just not having to call out from work? And, they can travel. And, this one lived here and this one lived there. And so it was the first time that I fully experienced myself, capital S, living in my vessel fully. Like there was nowhere, like my false sense of self was nowhere to be found. And I was, for the first time, felt like I was home. I felt like I was understood. I was seen. I didn't feel crazy. It was the first time that I was modeled what was happening inside of me before. Like I was saying, I felt crazy for years for like knowing this information, but everybody that I knew was still operating in a different way, and everyone was still following all these rules and, checking off the checklist of going through high school, going to college, getting the job, buying the house, getting the master's. Then the next step for me would have been like, meet your mate, get married, have children. Damn. Like I didn't know any different because I was never modeled anything different than what I grew up in and the place where I grew up and just the information that I consumed. Everything confirmed to me that something was wrong with me. And the things and the thoughts that I was experiencing inside of myself from that first awakening, or from all of those little awakenings, that like something was wrong with me. And it was the first time that I was just in a container, like I said, that I felt home, that I felt that this part of myself was living. It was seeing what other people were doing. It was seeing how they were acting. It was even seeing how they were dressed. Like I always just dressed to the nines, like to the T, and wore tight clothing and just uncomfortable stuff. Like that's just where I grew up, and that's what I thought I had to wear. So it was just so eye-opening for me to see what like other ways that people were living. And so another huge moment, probably the biggest one, and I keep saying this, right? Because I feel like every awakening is just bigger and bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper and deeper. And let me say this, I don't believe that the awakening process is just one awakening. Like I'm not like Eckhart Tolle, who was about to kill myself and just realized that I was about to kill myself and that I and myself are two different people. Like that wasn't me, right? For me, awakening is a process, and it's just constantly shifting into different realities and into different parts of yourself. And there are many different moments in my life that I would say are an awakening. And so there's many of them. So here's another one. I'm in a deep meditation with 120 people, and this guy is leading it, and he's talking about being a lighthouse. And he's saying that if your light is dim, then you are going to attract all of these other dim creatures out there to you. And if your light is super bright, then all those people out there that are super bright are going to find you. And I just remember bawling my eyes out, just crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And so in that moment, to keep this a little bit short, I knew in my body that here's the message. It wasn't a voice. I can be clear about that. It was just downloaded in my body. You need to get clean. Stop drinking. Stop smoking weed. Stop doing all of that. Stop drinking. Stop drugging. If you want to do my work, capital M, my work. If you want to work with me, capital M, you want to do my work, capital M, then get clean. And so I spent the whole weekend crying. I was like, I got this message. I'm supposed to be clean. And I just, I have to follow it. It's so clear. But, how am I going to do this? What are my weekends going to look like? I was growing weed at the time. I was smoking a shit ton of weed. And I was drinking occasionally. I don't want to say occasionally. I was drinking every weekend. Maybe once, maybe twice. And if I wasn't smoking weed, I was drinking. So this is another topic for another podcast, another episode. So basically I got the message that I needed to be sober and I needed to be clean of everything. So I came home from that retreat. Well, let me also say that there were a lot of people that I met there that didn't drink and didn't drug. And that was really interesting for me. I'm like, how do you do that? I never wanted to use. Like, I grew up in recovery with my family. There's so much addiction everywhere. And so I grew up, I actually didn't start using anything till I got to college. So yeah, I came home and I got clean. I stopped drinking. And then a couple weeks later, I stopped smoking. And that is when my whole life changed. I got to save this for a different episode. Let's still stay at so I came home and I saw that I was putting on all of these different masks. I was hiding this part of myself, capital S, that was living through my vessel and in my vessel the whole weekend, because it was finally in a container where it wasn't going to be judged, that it felt like it could come out from underneath the rocks. It was really interesting. I was asking myself, who was that? Who was that in my body for those 2-3 days? Who was that? I need to get to know that person. I need to know her. And I call her capital her, like H, capital H, her, or like she as in capital S. And I'm referring to my most authentic and true self, that like who I was before this false sense of self started creating itself and making itself somebody. So I invested the next 5 months into figuring out what that was, who she was, who that was, and why I had kept covering her up. Why was I putting on these masks? Why was I hiding her from my family? Why was I hiding her from everybody? And so I would sit in meditation for hours. I would journal. I really got into doing cacao ceremonies. And I met this guy at the retreat who changed my life forever. It's like, it just keeps happening. It just, as I keep saying, and I keep saying, this is the biggest moment and this has changed my life forever. It's so beautiful, this journey when you're on it, how once you start, and I don't believe there's ever a starting point. I think it starts from the moment you get birthed into this world. But once I started to become aware of it, boy, this thing just took off. So I met this guy at the retreat, and he was just like my professor from college. It was like, what do you have? How did you get this? I need it. And I just was absorbing everything like a sponge from this person. This person is incredible, and I'm going to keep the name out of it. Person is incredible, doing incredible work. And I just remember I still had no idea about my job and if I was going to get fired. And this person was a coach. This person is a coach. And I was like, so I was thinking during this whole vaccine mandate and like fighting it, that I was going to go back to school to be a psychologist, that I'd go back and I'd go help people. But I was like, screw that. I'm so done going to college. I just got through my undergrad. Then I went to my master's for 3 years, got my master's. I'm like, I am done. And so I still remember where I was when I was on the phone with them, when they said that they were a coach, and my jaw literally hit my legs. I was sitting in my car and I was like, hold on. You don't need an education to do this. You don't need a license. You don't need to go to school for this. You could just be a coach. And this person was like, yeah, you literally just use your experience of life, which is the best knowledge. You have this embodied energy inside of you of the life that you're living, and actually your own healing is like in your energy, and people pick up on it and they want to know and they want to work with you. So this person's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just coaching. And honestly, maybe today this person's making millions. And so I just started absorbing everything from this person, and I really started to use meditation to go in and heal myself. Like, where are these wounds? What are the roots of them? And I just went really, really deep, and I just continued to look for things that needed to be healed. And you know what happens when you keep looking for things that need to be healed? You keep finding them. So anyways, I finally had models in my life that were living the life that I always felt called to live, but I had no idea what it was because I never saw it. I just had these feelings inside of me. I just had this drive and this desire to get to know myself deeper. Meditation just showed up in my life and changed my life. These books, these self-help books were coming into my life. And yeah, so it didn't end up working out with this person. This person is now a friend of mine and another fellow traveler on this journey who it's just really beautiful. Okay, so let's keep moving here. So that was in January, February when I went on that retreat. I was with this person, this guy for like 3 months. And it was, I think it was the middle of February when I received a notice that I was exempt from the vaccine. So, but I was really hurt, I was actually really hurt by this school. And I resented the school for this because I taught during COVID and now you're going to come back at me and be like, we're actually going to fire you if you don't listen to us. But you know what? After working through my resentments in step 4 of the program of recovery programs, I realized that, these people were just doing what they were asked to be doing in like a time that was just I don't know, what's the word, unprecedented, something like that. That word was being used for so many times during that time. But just like a time that was crazy and that nobody really knew how to handle. And so that resentment is gone. But so I kept my job and I finished out the rest of the school year. So that brings us to summertime of 2022. And I ended up going to Costa Rica. I flew to Costa Rica. I went to this retreat, and it was the first time that I was sitting with medicine, that I was sitting with ayahuasca specifically. And I was just there for a week. It was really beautiful. I was in this container of like 10 other individuals who are now close friends. And all of our lives changed there. And I just saw this part of myself, capital S, that was living in this space again. I'm like, oh my God, I love this girl. Who is she? And she's me, like she's me. And I just kept flopping back and forth between my false sense of self living and then who I actually am. And it was really hard for me to like stop flopping. I didn't know how. I just everybody that I was interacting with was feeding my false sense of self, my career, like everything was developed from this false sense of self. And I do believe that my soul was involved in some of this stuff as well. Like teaching, I'm a teacher forever, right? So the soul does squeak through in times, but I was just very unaware of it in all those ways. So, and let me state that I had to end that relationship with this guy who was really wonderful and amazing and just was the best model for me in a time where I didn't have any models. I had to end it because this person was so far ahead of where I was, and I was just starting this journey. I wasn't just starting, like I had been on it for years, but I had just really awakened to like, okay, these people are living like this. That's the way that I've always desired to live. I just didn't even know it because I wasn't modeled it. So this person was just so far ahead of me in that moment that it was too much for me. I had my own journey to stumble through and to move through and to experience. And this person was just, too far ahead of me. It was very overwhelming. And I was also, sober and really, really learning about myself in those moments because I didn't have anything to numb out, feelings anymore. I had to actually feel them. And again, I'm definitely going to do an episode on that and getting sober and how that changed my life. And how it helped me awaken. Like it was one of the biggest things that woke me up. So let's fast forward. So I ended up canceling my flight home from Costa Rica. And I'm just traveling with these people that I met. And it was the beginning of August. I didn't have to be back to work to teach until the end of August. Like I was just free. I had the whole summer vacation. I didn't have to come home. So same way that this message came through for me to get sober and to stop drinking and drugging, another one came through and it said, move here. And I was just so open and just traveling in a new area and with these new people who I just felt so close to. And I only had known them for a week. It felt like I'd known them for years. And they knew me, capital M. Like, the false sense of self was not here. Like, just like at the last retreat, it was just my soul was fully living and channeling through. And so it was really powerful. And so I heard, move here. And as I'm sitting here recording this podcast episode, my head's like looking around like, me? You want me to move here? Wait, no. Like, hold on. I'm a small town girl, literally went to college 20 minutes from my hometown. I got a job at the same exact high school that I worked at. I bought a house a couple minutes from my parents' house. And you want me to move to another country? No. Got the wrong person. I think you found the wrong person. And it was so clear. Like, my whole body knew it. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't get what's going on here. Can someone fill me in? I think that, I really think you guys got the wrong person. I don't, this isn't, I can't. I was the girl that I used to play ice hockey. I played ice hockey and softball in college. But when I went to these little camps for ice hockey. And I was the one who would go into the bathroom, turn on the tub so that the girls that I was staying with wouldn't hear me crying. And I'd call my mom and I'd be crying on the phone. I'd have separation anxiety. How am I going to move to Costa Rica? I'm like, I own a house. I have a position that I'm tenured in. I thought forever I was going to be teaching at the school and that I'd retire there. And I'm like, I don't know if I already said this, but I own this house. My family's here. I'm so close to my family. We get together for dinner multiple times a week. I think you phoned the wrong person. You got the wrong person. So anyways, I knew it. This message was so strong. I knew it. I came home. I finally came. Well, first of all, I started changing my resume, redoing my resume, started applying for jobs in Costa Rica, started making profiles online that you could teach in a different country, and you just apply, and you can teach in China, you could teach in Italy. And I was only looking for Costa Rica. So I called my dad and we're chatting on the phone, just catching up. And I was like, Dad, I was just so high, just so high on life and just, I'm applying for jobs here. And he was like, what? What the bleep? Get home. You have no idea what you're doing. You can't move there. You just talking crazy. You have no idea what you're talking about. And I was just like, let's hang that phone up because, that was intense. And how am I going to be me, capital M, when nobody at home even knows me, capital M? They all know the false sense of me, a false sense of self. That's all they know. These programs, these beliefs, these thoughts, these responses, these reactions, literally all of me that they knew was not me. There are, of course, parts of me that they knew, but so much going on here. So eventually I end up coming home 8 days later than I was supposed to. I had never in my life been able to just extend my stay. I always had to know exactly where I was going and what day and what time and how we were getting there. And it was just so structured, such a masculine energy that I was operating on for my whole life. And I came home and I just sat in the backyard for, I want to say 5 to 6 hours a day. I was journaling, cacao ceremonies. After the retreat from Texas, I bought a whole set of 9 sound healing bowls, the crystal ones, the big ones. And I was just sitting in the backyard wondering what happened, trying to tune back in. And this communication that I was having with self, with God, with source, with divine, with creation, whatever you call it, was so strong and so present. It was I was having conversations every day in my body, in my vessel, with myself, capital S, which I believe is God, source, all of it. And I was just wondering, how I'm going to do this. How am I going to do this? And I just got so much guidance, crazy amounts of guidance. It was just, writing through my pen to me, in my journal, it started talking to me. And I just kept praying, if this is what you need me to do, then guide me. Give me the strength, give me the courage. To this day, I still pray for the strength and courage because the journey is whack and it's crazy and it's beautiful and it's magical and chaotic and challenging and blah. It's amazing. So I end up getting the first job that I applied to in Costa Rica. they offer me to come and start the school year in Costa Rica is from January to December. It's a full year calendar with more weeks off than the American system has. Not more weeks off. It's like the same amount of schooling. It's a little bit more, but instead of having 1 week off, we'll have like 2 or whatever. So I have to figure out, like I met with my boss and I was just saying, hey, it's not a matter of when, it's a matter of if. Like I'm resigning and leaving. And it just, people were in shock. My family was in shock. I really couldn't share much with them. And so I ended up resigning from my job that I thought I was going to teach at forever on the fall equinox when it turned from summer to fall. So I think this was like September 21st. And again, I was just in my backyard all day long. I was so distanced from my family because I was so afraid that they were going to feed the fear inside of me. And boy, they were. And I was fearful myself. I didn't know what was happening inside of me. I had no idea. I just knew that I had to go. You know, family was like, well, what if it's the wrong voice you're following? And what if it like, just fear. And I'm like, I know that I have to go. Well, you don't have to go. You really don't have to go. You don't you don't have anything to prove to anybody. Just chill. So I was like, no. Like, you guys don't get it. I don't even get it. I gotta go. And so they offered me to start the job in January of 2023. But they also were like, if you need to finish out your whole school year, you can come in June of 2023 and just start our year in the middle of the school year. And I was like, no. Like, so much can happen in 6 months. I gotta go. Like, I gotta come. So my last day of school was November 18th, 2022 at Shrewsbury High School, the place I thought I was gonna teach at forever in Massachusetts. And I stayed for Thanksgiving and I got on a flight on November 29th and I flew to Costa Rica. It's so wild. I was the most calm that I had ever been in my life. I had these 7 suitcases with me. I had all 9 of my sound healing bowls with me. I didn't even care if I brought enough clothes. I just needed my bowls with me. I needed my journals with me. There were just so many things that I needed with me to keep me connected. And as I want to reiterate, I was so guided during this time. It was so loud. It was so clear. I was getting constant communication every day, so many times a day. And I just was so confident about moving and leaving. I cried because I just couldn't believe that I was so confident. I thought I'd be scared. I'd be fearful. Like, holy shit, you're leaving your family. You're leaving your house. You're leaving your job. The students that you just met, like I had only been with them for 3 months, and had very deep connections with them because of the meditation. And I moved and I started teaching this at this school in January of 2023. And before I had moved, I was transferring over all of my files. You know, I had 4 or 5 years at this school. All the things I created, I'm like, I got to transfer all this stuff. I'm going to need all this stuff. And I just remember as I'm dragging and dropping from my school Google Drive to my Google Drive, my personal, a voice inside me just said, you don't need any of these. You don't need to do this. Just leave it. And I didn't listen to it. I just kept dragging everything. I'm like, this is 5 years of work. I gotta save everything. So I saved everything. And I moved. I was living in Playa del Coco in Costa Rica, and I was teaching at this school that was about 20 minutes down the road. And I had like 2 months to settle in, and I was just really connected. And I remember the first day I get on that beach and I'm sitting there, I'm doing my cacao ceremony, I'm journaling, I'm meditating, and I just ask, I say, okay, God, I'm here. What's next? And I just got like this laughter, not like making fun of me, but just this deep laugh. Like, you have no idea, you know, you got a lot of work to do before we really get things moving here. So, it's a long story. Let's keep going. I have my first week of teaching. It is absolutely horrible. It's horrendous. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to do 3 weeks of this. And I signed a 2-year contract. So I was contracted to be teaching for the next until December of 2024. And as I'm recording this right now, today is August 7th, 2024. So anyways, I'm teaching at this job. It's horrible. And you know what? I moved knowing I was done teaching. I knew I was done teaching. It was just an excuse. It was just a justification to get me into Costa Rica and to really get to know myself. And I didn't have anybody reminding me of my false sense of self. I didn't have anything. I was in a new country, new language, new culture, new everything. And, you know, to this day, sometimes I say, I don't know why I'm here, but I know I am here. It was so that I could get to know myself, capital S, so that I can strengthen her, that I could strengthen her, that I can still. That I can really get to know myself. No distractions, no disruptions, no putting on masks. There's no way out. I am here. I am her. And so I start teaching in January. Can't stand it. It's horrid. Horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. First time I ever faced adversity. First time I ever experienced my kids not liking me. First time I ever experienced kids not caring about meditation. It was like all of my passions were just gone. You know, before I moved to Costa Rica, you know, at the old school I was at, they were telling me, you know, how long your meditations, make sure they're only 3 minutes. Then they were telling me to stop bringing in my sound healing bowls for the students because I'm a math teacher. And then they told me that I couldn't hug my students anymore. And I was just bawling in the office. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I do. I help kids. I connect with them. I teach them tools of how to get to know themselves better. I teach them how to regulate. I teach them real shit. Like, I don't care about math. I care about them. They need touch. They need hug. They need to be told that they're loved. They need to be taught how to meditate. They need, like, I was so heartbroken. So when I moved to Costa Rica, I was like, wow, the school's really excited for me. They're like, you can hug your kids. You can bring your sound healing bowls in every single day if you want. You can meditate for however long you want. You can take them outside. Like, you can do whatever you want with these kids. When I got there, I didn't even want to look at them, let alone hug them. That's how bad it was. And so in September, of course, the kids came around and, you know, they liked me. You know, it's just different culture, American culture and Costa Rican culture. You know, the saying here is pura vida, which means like pure life, pure vibes. Just chill, relax. Everything's okay. It's Costa Rica, pura vida. And you know, I was always channeling my Dharma through. But it was just through like this really tiny channel when I was teaching back in Massachusetts. And because I was meditating with the kids, I was impacting them, I was teaching them, I was guiding them, I was teaching them about life and the importance of, you know, getting to know your thoughts and yourself. And like, it doesn't matter about the math. I don't care about your grades. Like, let's just let you feel safe and comfortable and be here and like be human and get to know each other. And so I was channeling through my Dharma, my purpose. And so I thought that I was really going to be able to do this in Costa Rica. You know, that this channel would grow. And it was really non-existent, to be honest. And I was really sad. I was really unhappy. But I was happy at the same time because I knew that there was something greater out there for me to be doing. And I was just kind of getting stuck in the teaching thing. So I was really grateful that I didn't like my job. It just wasn't a fun time to go through. So I found a different channel to channel all of this through that wants to come through me. I was doing sound healings for the teachers, which was really powerful. I started hosting them on the beach, but I got to backtrack a moment. In April, I was flying home to see my family, or no, I think it was June. It was the second time I came back to the States to visit my family, and I was on the plane. We were just about to land in Miami, and I got this message. And when I say message, I mean words. Like, they were pounding in my head. They were swirling in my head. They were so big. They were so loud. And it was on repeat. And this message told me what my purpose was. Purpose is. Told me what I was going to be doing. And this message said to me, you are going to help awaken me, capital M, inside of them. You are going to help awaken me inside of them. You are going to help awaken me inside of them, like a million times. I was like, I just don't know what this means. And I'm a teacher and I just, received, thank you, got it, wrote it down, journal about it, So September rolls around and I'm like, okay, I got 3 more months till the end of the school year. What am I going to do? I cannot give my soul up for another year. Can't give my soul up for another year. Like, I just can't do it for a freaking paycheck. It doesn't matter. Like, it's time to really tune into what's next for me outside of teaching. And so the months go by and, I was just waiting for something to fall out of the sky. Be like, hey, this is what you're going to do. Let's do it. Oh, hey, here's this certification you can get. Let's do it. Nothing happened because I didn't do anything. I didn't make any changes. I just was like waiting for something to tell me what to do. And I want to say that as soon as I moved to Costa Rica, the guidance that I was receiving and the communication just got quiet. I stopped receiving downloads. I stopped receiving messages. I stopped receiving like direct communication from source and from myself. And it was really challenging because it was like, I've given you enough. Now go live, go do it, go embody this. Until the message that came through, that was just a very clear one of, you're going to help awaken me inside of them. That was really the only message I had gotten since I moved there from November to June. And it was just from there, it was just really quiet. And I was just trying to rely on this higher power to guide me and tell me what to do. Like I literally wanted something to fall out of the sky on my lap and be like, you're going to do this. Yes. Okay, cool. Now I can start doing that. And I was talking to a friend and he was like, that's not how it works. You take the steps. You show the universe that you are taking steps towards doing something different and it will guide you and everything will come together. So a couple weeks before the end of the school year, I decided to finish my Reiki Reiki master practitioner certification and sign up to become a yoga instructor. You know what happens 3 weeks later? Well, hold on. Let's just say I chickened out. And I was like, I'm signed to this contract. I got 1 more year. I'll get these certifications. I'll start a business on the side. And then by the time December 2024 rolls around, I will have my other business up and I'll be able to stop teaching. I just chickened out. I wanted to take the safe route out. But in September, I had prayed. Give me a very clear, loud, obvious answer that I could never miss and I could never misinterpret. Like, give me a clear answer on what to do here. So December rolls around and they actually ended up letting me go from my position. If I had chosen to leave, I would have owed them all this money for my visa. I would have owed them all the money for them to fly me down here, plus my $700 worth of luggage. I would have owed them all that money. So they ended up firing me because they didn't have a position for me the next year. And it was the most obvious answer that I could have never missed. It was loud. It was clear. It's time. Let's go. You're ready. Oh my goodness. So how long do I want to go with this? So I was just kicked out into the unknown. I had let go of my hometown, my teaching position, my identities. I was really just unsure of what was happening. I knew I was never going back to be a teacher again in a school system. I knew that I was starting a business. And I knew from years ago on that phone call with my friend who I was dating at the time, who was a coach, I knew that being a coach was what was next for me. I knew it. I knew that message that came through of you're going to help awaken me inside of them was what my whole mission is. And that's what I was going to work towards. And that was what was the universe was all coming together for this to come through and into fruition. And so, oh my goodness, I don't know how far I want to go into this. Because at the moment, I'm only like 7 months away from where the story where I brought you to at this story. I just rolled around in the unknown for a long time. It was so uncomfortable. I just felt like I was supposed to be somebody. I was supposed to have something. I was supposed to be working towards something. I just thought I was supposed to know the answers. But I didn't know the answer. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that this space opened up for me, and the universe was like, let's go. It's time. You're ready. You remember when you sat on the beach the first day you got to Costa Rica and asked, what's next? Now we're ready. Almost a year and a month later. So, So I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this and if I want to continue to bring you through the whole story. It's kind of we're already at an hour. And if you made it to this hour, I'm just so grateful to have you here. And I'm so grateful for your time and for your energy of going through this story with me and traveling along with me. So I think I'm going to wrap up here I ended up embarking on this journey and following my soul's message, following my dharma of like helping guide others through their awakening process and helping them, navigate and move through and untie their false sense of self and start to really create space for their souls, for themselves, capital S, to come through and to be here. And so today, I am an awakening coach. I guide people out of unconscious living and into awakened purpose. I come back, like I've made it through, I've made it out of the matrix, I've made it out of my own false sense of self and my own illusion of myself. And now I'm back here to help other people and bring them through the journey. So my process in my coaching program has 3 phases for the awakening process. Well, hold on. The first thing is developing awareness. The second thing is training your awareness to be able to use it to look at your thoughts, your beliefs, your programmings, your systems, like everything. But the 3 main things are the clearing of the old, we gotta, like, your vessel is full to the brim. Let's clear it out. Let's get rid of all this junk. Let's get rid of all this, the false sense of self is always going to be here. Right. But I want to say that the amount of space that the false sense of self was taking up before, versus my soul and how much room that was taking up before, which was like a tiny bit, they've shifted. Now my false sense of self is still here, right? It's still here, still alive and well. Don't think I can ever unlearn that fully, but my soul has so much room in my vessel, and I've dedicated my life now, for the rest of my life, to being a channel for my dharma to come through and building my life around that, instead of before going through all this education, getting into a job that I was channeling through like this little tiny, like maybe dental floss size channel with just sharing meditation. So now I live my life. I'm living in Costa Rica. I'm living in Nosara currently as you're listening to this. And I have built my own business around coaching, and it's awakening coaching. It's going back and bringing others through the underground tunnel, because it's a challenging journey. And I did this whole thing on my own until I got to a point where I was like, I need coaches. I need support. I need somebody to help me. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how to move forward. I've come this far on my own, and this is as far as I can go. And so I realized that I couldn't do this on my own anymore. I realized that if I want to go far, I got to go with other people. I got to invest in someone who's already doing the work that I'm doing and is steps ahead of me that can help me take those few steps. And then after that, hire someone else or the same person to continue guiding me through this journey. And so what I do now is I only work with courageous people. I only work with people who are awakened in some way to the life that they're unconsciously living, and they just have no idea how to get out. They have no models, they have no support, and everything that is around them is feeding their false sense of self, and they don't have any space to figure out who they are, truly, who they are, their selves are. And so I am just a guide with a lantern in front of you, in front of my clients, that says, hey, I've been this way before. It's okay. I'm just going to light up the step in front of you. You take it. I'm not holding anybody's hand in my coaching program. I am just a guide, and I understand and I see you. I understand you. I see you, and I am here to help you. This is my mission. This is what I was born to do. And I finally have come back to that after many, 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 many years of living in my false sense of self. And now I'm here to help others. I'm here to be of service. And so yeah, if you want to connect with me, I'm Miss Mindful with a dot in between, miss.mindful on Instagram. I'm miss.mindful on YouTube. And now I'm finally starting this podcast where I get to share so much more about myself and my journey and my processes. And I'm excited to invite guests on here that have their own processes and things that I've started to adopt into my practices and my coaching as well, just to like give you the knowledge, to give you the support, and to give you the motivation to live the life that you were meant to live. And so I'm just so excited. Thank you so much if you have made it this far. Give this podcast a like, give it a comment, rate it, whatever that feels good to you. Share with somebody else who you think the story would resonate with, and connect with me. Like DM me, get in my DMs. Let's start a conversation. I just am so excited to get to know you better. I'm excited for the content that's going to be channeled through, and the messages and the wisdom that's going to come through this podcast. I'm just really, really, really excited. And so again, I really thank you for your time here. Give me a follow on Instagram, leave a comment, like, share this, and don't forget, reach out to me in the DMs. And in the DM, you can label it like podcast episode 1 or something like that. So I know that you came here from this episode. So sending you so much love and so many blessings. And I'm looking forward to what's to come on this podcast. Ciao.